You were never meant to know this. Since the beginning of time, they've fed us stories of heaven and hell, light and dark, dreams and death. But what if everything was a code? What if sleep is the reboot? What if death is a doorway? And what if your life isn't really yours? This is 999, the code behind everything. Can we die in our dreams? And if we do, who wakes up? Most people laugh at this question. They think it's harmless. Of course not, they say. If you die in a dream, you just wake up. But what if that's not true? You've heard the stories. People falling from the sky in a dream, their heart racing, then suddenly snapping awake, just before impact. But have you ever asked yourself what would have happened if you didn't wake up? Because some people don't. Hospitals record it as sudden cardiac arrest, undiagnosed seizures, nocturnal death syndrome. But listen closely. Some of those victims were healthy. Some of them told their families, "I've been having strange dreams. Something is chasing me. It feels too real." Then they never wake up. So the question isn't, can we die in a dream? The question is, what did they see just before their heart stopped? Science says sleep is the brain's time to repair and organize. But ancient cultures say something else. The Egyptians believed sleep was a trial of the soul. They spoke of dream walkers, those who could navigate the duat, the shadow world, where the spirits of the dead lingered. In Tibetan Buddhism, advanced monks spoke of dream yoga, entering higher realms where beings waited, watching. They believed sleep was not rest but passage, a nightly shift in dimension, and if you weren't strong enough, you wouldn't come back. Modern science avoids this, but why do your eyes dart back and forth during REM? Why is your body paralyzed, completely frozen, while your mind is racing through alternate realities? Why do people in comas dream entire lives, yet return thinking only minutes passed? Because time is different there, space is different there. And some believe the moment you sleep, you're no longer in your own world. You're being borrowed. You know that terrifying moment when you wake up but can't move. You try to scream, but no sound escapes. Your eyes open, but your body is paralyzed, and in the corner, something watches. Sleep paralysis. That's the name doctors give it. They tell you it's just your brain waking before your body does. But that explanation isn't complete. Why do people across cultures who've never spoken to each other describe seeing the same thing? A shadow figure sitting on their chest, standing at the foot of their bed, whispering things they don't understand. The incubus, the night hag, the shadow man, different names, same presence. Because when your body sleeps and your mind doesn't fully return, you're caught stuck between dimensions, stuck at the gate, and whatever lives on the other side can see you now. Some dreams feel like memories. You walk through streets you've never been to, but they feel familiar. You speak to people who know your name, but you've never met them. And sometimes they follow you back. Ever had a dream that felt too real? A voice that lingered even after you woke up? A name you didn't know, repeating over and over in your head? Some researchers in fringe neuroscience believe we're not just dreaming, we're connecting, tapping into frequencies, other lives, other entities. And if you don't close the door properly when you wake up, they find a way to stay. In your thoughts, in your patterns, in your reflections, there are thousands of cases where people woke up different, speaking new languages, knowing things they shouldn't know, and claiming they aren't alone in their body anymore. But no one believes them, because who would? Imagine this. You fall asleep. Suddenly, you're in a yellow hallway. The wallpaper is stained. The hum of fluorescent lights hurts your ears. There are no doors, no windows, just more and more identical rooms. You've never been here before, but somehow you have. This is known online as the back rooms, a viral urban myth. But what if it's not a myth? Thousands claim they visited that place in their dreams. They describe the same architecture, the same color, the same feeling, like something is hunting you, something not human. Psychologists call this liminal space dreaming, the brain's way of recreating meaningless in-between zones. But others believe it's something else, a code layer of our reality, a forgotten partition, an accident in the simulation, only accessed during deep, unconscious drift. Because sometimes when you sleep, you don't go to dream. You fall between systems. You land in the glitch. And if you're not careful, you don't wake up. You just reset. Thousands of years ago, before clocks and calendars, sleep was seen not as rest, but as travel. In ancient Sumer, clay tablets described sleeping gates, entrances used by high priests to visit the land beneath the sky. They believed dreams weren't internal, but external. They believed every soul left the body, and some didn't return. In the Mayan codices, sleep was marked with spiral glyphs tied to Xibalba, the underworld. Each spiral represented a level, a layer, deeper than the last. They claimed only the brave reached the final layer and came back changed. Meanwhile, the Aborigines of Australia speak of the dream time, a real dimension that exists outside of time and space, a place of origin, creation, but also danger. Not everyone is welcome there. So ask yourself, why did ancient civilizations build temples lined with the stars, yet bury their shamans underground when they slept? Because sleep was not peaceful, it was a mission. And the deeper you traveled, the more you risked never waking as yourself. There are people who remember. They wake up gasping, eyes wide, sobbing, not from a nightmare, but from a place too real to be fiction. They don't talk about it because every time they do, it happens again. They describe seeing themselves sleeping, floating above their bodies, then being pulled violently into tunnels, rooms, or black oceans where things speak, in voices that sound like your own, but twisted. Some call this astral projection, others call it a false awakening. But what if it's not accidental? What if something wants you to leave your body? Something waiting, patient, ancient. People return with scars, emotional ones they can't explain. Anxiety, sudden depression, hearing whispers in static, feeling watched even in daylight. Some report waking with bruises, others with symbols burned into their minds, shapes they draw unconsciously over and over again. They say, "It doesn't want me to tell you this, it's still with me." This isn't just sleep, it's war, a war for your consciousness. There is a phrase whispered in old villages and modern psych wards alike. He didn't wake up as himself. It starts with a child. They go to bed smiling, warm, innocent, but in the morning, their gaze is empty. They don't recognize their parents. They stop speaking. Or worse, they say things they shouldn't know. I used to live in a house that burned. There's something under the bed, but it doesn't live there. It waits there. Doctors call it childhood disassociation. Psychiatrists call it a mental phase. But ancient cultures called it what it really felt like, a soul swap. Some say when children sleep, they're easier to enter because their minds are still open, their dreams unfiltered, and in rare cases, something else comes back instead of them. In 1987, a 5-year-old boy in Romania fell asleep and woke up fluent in a dialect of Latin that hadn't been spoken in centuries. His parents said he didn't blink for hours. He simply stared and whispered, "The gate is cold. I want to go back." No one believed it. The church took over. The boy disappeared from public record. This isn't isolated. There are hundreds of case studies of sudden behavior shifts, lost memories, foreign languages, or unexplained knowledge. The medical community covers it with terms. But the truth? Something else came back in that child's place. Have you ever dreamed of someone only to find out they died that night? Have you ever seen your own death in a dream? People dismiss it. Coincidence, subconscious anxiety. But there are cases too exact to ignore. In 2003, a woman in Michigan dreamed she was drowning in a red car. She told her husband, "Don't take the bridge today." He did anyway. The car slipped on the black ice and plunged into a frozen river. Witnesses say the last thing seen before it sank was red taillights blinking like warning beacons. In Japan, elders speak of the Shinigami dreams, visits from spirits who come and sleep before someone's death. They don't speak, they simply stand at the corner of your dream, watching, waiting. Some who've had these dreams report waking up marked, a handprint on their chest, a shadow burned into their pillow. In 1971, a child in Colombia screamed during sleep, "Tell this guy I'm not ready." He died of an aneurysm that night. Are these predictions or are they instructions? Is the dream preparing the soul or is something else pulling the cord? Because if you can die in real life after dreaming it, that means your dream knew before your body did. And that is the most terrifying truth of all. You've heard people say it. They look peaceful. They just drifted off. But what really happens in those final moments when the mind begins to shut down? When sleep and death start to blur, hospice nurses report something strange. In the final 72 hours, the dying often fall into deep sleep. But what happens in those hours is disturbing. They start talking to people no one else can see. They reach into empty air. They whisper things like, "They're calling me." It's not dark there, but it's not light either. I see me. Some smile. Others scream. One nurse reported a patient who hadn't spoken in days suddenly sat up, looked behind the nurse and said, "You told me I'd be safe. You lied." He died seconds later. This isn't rare. It's common, too common to ignore. You see, just before death, the brain releases a final surge of activity, a burst of gamma waves. Some call it the final dream. Others believe it's the soul detaching. But what if it's something else? What if sleep and death are the same path, just with a different destination? What if, as you sleep, you visit the other side, and when you die, you just don't come back? There are those who've been resuscitated after death. They describe seeing themselves from above, feeling pulled by a sound, moving through a tunnel of light that flickered like static. One man said, "I saw a door made of mirrors, but none of them showed my face. He came back, but he never slept again." So tonight, when you close your eyes and drift into silence, ask yourself, are you really sleeping or are you starting to leave? If this made your heart race, if something in you feels like it's starting to remember, then you're not alone. There's more hidden in the silence between thoughts, in the shadows between dreams. And we're only just beginning. subscribe to 999.